So yesterday I went to the garden center and I picked up a bunch of our pre-grown vegetables. As a rule, I would normally plant my own seeds and start them early, but this year our house is in construction and I have no place to put them. So you can see here that I have a list of everything that we picked up yesterday, as well as some seeds that we want to put in. I have, I've indicated how many of each. I've also indicated how much space I want to allow for each of these plants in order to make everybody fit in. We stake our tomatoes and I give them haircuts quite often to keep the sun coming in and keep them off the dirt, so they don't take off quite as much space as what they would if you left them without doing anything with them. Last year we put our tomatoes in this area here beside the cucumbers and they did exceptionally well. The way I've mapped the sunshine is in the morning the sun comes in on an angle from the south, and then as it turns it kind of comes across this way. So our area down at the far end from the house doesn't get as much sun, but still does get enough for beans and Swiss chard. So this year I'm still going to put our tomatoes in on the north side of the bed closest to the trellis. So this area here will all be contained with tomatoes. I may have to put the Romas on this side because, as you can see, they each need 2 feet of space. So when you're looking at how much space are they going to need, you can kind of 2 foot square of space. And you can see that once you get your squares organized and offloaded so they've got some breathing space, it doesn't allow for a whole lot of room in there for 8 of each kind. But I can tell you it does work well. So how many have we got in there now? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And we could potentially do the same thing here. So there's those guys. And by off-centering them a little bit, it gives you the ability to get in behind them to do picking and haircuts and get the suckers off that need to come off. As you can see, it doesn't take long before you're filling up a lot of your space. I still have a lemon boy and a tiny Tim that I'd have to incorporate into that, which I can adjust them a little bit more. And as you can see down in this end, we're not running out of space. So we've got cabbage and we've got some zucchinis that we'd like to put in. These zucchinis tend to be quite long, and I will cut their trail vines off so they're not quite so big. So if we allow a 3 foot square area for 1, 2, we can kind of squeeze them into this area. The beans we're going to trellis up the far end of the fence. The Swiss chard I had in from last year came back up again, so I'll add a few more to that. So there's my squash on that side. The only thing that may prevent me from doing that is my trellis is there and they may get tangled up in the trellis, so which means I may need to consider putting them over here. And I may end up giving them more of a 2.5 foot area, so I may have to adjust those tomatoes just a little bit. Cucumbers will be planted every 6 inches along the trellis, and they go up about 8 feet, and there's a bit of fence across this end too. What else have I got on this list here? Marigolds. So the marigolds, they get to go in all these extra places in between where seems to be a space. Purpose of the marigolds is they help deter the cabbage moths and some of the little bugs and the aphids that tend to bother your garden in the summertime. Plus they make the place look a little bit nicer. So that's the rough draft of the potential of what we're going to do with our garden this year. And now it's just a matter of cleaning it up a little bit and truly seeing if I've got too much on my list, because I might. And you notice we're not putting in beets or carrots or onions. We found that even though the soil is great, there's just not enough sunshine for those, and I can buy them from the grocery store in a 10-pound bag for a lot less than the hassle it takes to put them in the garden. They just don't grow as well as I'd like them to, and it really doesn't cost me much to get a 10-pound bag for my pickling needs. And so we'll come back in a minute, we'll clean this up and show you what it's going to look like in the end.